Do you love handmade gifts? Do you love giving them? Do you love making them? How about for your own kitchen? I'm Joe Rotella, and I'm going to show you how to take this bottle and etch a really cool label frame on it using etchall. And then we're going to paint inside that frame with chalkboard paint so that whatever you make in here, herb-infused oils or vinegars, it's easy to write on what it is, wipe it off next time you change it, and you've got a really fun item for your kitchen or a great gift. Let's get started. So to start, we're going to cut a vinyl stencil using Etch Mask self-adhesive vinyl. It comes in a package just like this, and you can cut it by hand with a craft knife, or it'll work in any electronic cutting machine. I've already cut a small stencil and trimmed it out, and I have it here. Now there's different ways to approach weeding. I like to weed it when it's still here and not when it's transferred. So I've got a weeding tool here, a pick tool. And it's pretty sharp, so you want to keep this little protective end on there. And what we're going to do is always go away from the parts you want to keep, because you don't want to punch any holes in the part you want to keep. And we're just going to peel away the parts we don't want. That's why we call it weeding. It's just like weeding in your garden. You're getting rid of the parts that you don't want. So there's my label stencil. Now I have to transfer that onto my bottle. So I'm going to work with Etch Mask transfer sheets. What we're going to do is take one of these transfer sheets and just measure it to be about the size of our vinyl stencil and trim it out. Now we can take off the transfer part. You can tell this is a carrier sheet. This is the transfer paper. It's sticky. And be careful about peeling it all off at once, because sometimes it can have a tendency to roll onto itself. And I'm going to put it on top of my vinyl stencil and burnish it down really, really well. Keep this carrier sheet. We can use that. So now I've got a little sandwich here. The transfer sheet is on the top, the vinyl stencil, and then the carrier sheet. Now I've got the surface I'm going to work on. First, I want to make sure it's nice and clean. Now I already did that, but as a precaution, I tend to wipe it with an alcohol wipe, because I think that removes any extra oils or just anything funky on that glass. So now that that's done, we need a way to secure this, because you can see it could roll. And boy, that would be disappointing if you had your etching cream on here and the whole thing just rolled away. So I've got some painter's tape. And be sure you decide what you want the front of your piece to be. Now, I don't really love this as the front because it has a little bit of a seam, but I really like all the metal work that you see, so I'm going to keep it this way. I'm going to go ahead and put some of this tape right across the bottle, and I'm going to attach the bottle right to the surface of my table. And that'll just prevent it from rolling while I'm working. This is an especially good idea if there's a chance that somebody could bump into the table while you're working. Because then it can really, rock and roll. Needed some longer pieces here, huh? So now I've got the bottle adhered to the table. It's nice and clean. We're ready to put our stencil on. So what we're going to do is carefully peel the transfer paper, and you'll see how much that stencil likes that transfer sheet. It's totally left the carrier sheet. And now I can put it on my bottle. So decide where you're going to place it. Make sure it's nice and straight. And we're just going to apply it all the way around our bottle. Now we can still use our spatula on top of the transfer tape to make sure that it's really burnished on. And then we take away the transfer tape. Now sometimes you have to convince the vinyl that it wants to stick to the glass and not the transfer tape. And we can reuse this transfer tape. So I'm going to put it right back on the carrier sheet. I end up with a whole little collection of these transfer sheets in all different shapes and sizes. Now, I'm messing around up here trying to get rid of most of the wrinkles, but they really don't matter up here. Where they really matter is right around the opening of that stencil. And it looks like it's burnished nice and well. Notice that I don't go rolling it with my fingers because you'll lift up that stencil. Use the fleshy part of your thumb to really burnish that down. So the bottle's secure. This is good. Now, sometimes we'll take extra vinyl or even this tape. If you're concerned about the cream kind of rolling down the sides, you can use extra pieces of your vinyl or the tape and kind of roll it up like this and make a gutter. So I know the etching cream that I'm working with is pretty thick, so I'm not really worried about any kind of rolling, but just in case, and to show you guys how it works, I'll do it right there. So see how we made a nice little gutter, just like in a bowling alley. And I'll do the same on this side, roll it up, and so it stays in place. You know, tape is pretty inexpensive, so don't be stingy with it. There we go, we're good to go. Now we're ready to etch. And I'm using etchall, reusable etching cream. Now, sometimes you'll see this in different videos, different colors. Look at mine, it's a rich cocoa color. And that's because this cream has been exposed to different temperatures. You may get a bottle and it's a beautiful cream color, just like evaporated milk. But this works just as well. I've had bottles for 5 years that are still just working great. So I'm going to use a plastic spoon. Now, some people you'll see will just pour this on the surface. That makes me nervous. I don't get that much control. I'm worried I'll slip. Suddenly I'll have way too much. So I kind of like using this plastic spoon. And I'm just going to go over this surface. Make sure you go all the way to the edge of any part of your glass that's exposed. Now you can see how thick this particular bottle of cream is, so there's no chance that this is going to run. But we have the gutters there just in case. So it's sort of like icing a cake. Get it all on, nice and smooth. Remember, it's reusable, so we're going to reclaim this. Now we just set a timer and we wait 15 minutes. So we'll check back in about 15 minutes. So it's been 15 minutes and now we're ready to reclaim the cream that we used on our bottle. So I've got my bottle of etchall here and this fantastic little spatula tool. And what I'm going to do is just scrape it up and scoop and put it right in the container. That is the amazing part of this cream, is that it's reusable. And I think I've actually been working from this same big bottle for 5 years. It just goes on and on and on. And I usually try really hard. I don't want to scrape it under the stencil, but I do want to reclaim as much as I can because I can just keep using it over and over and over again. And I think you can see how much we got off that bottle. So now we're ready to do some cleaning. Keep all of the tape, everything on your bottle. Don't take any of it off. And you're going to wash this typically under running water. I've got a bin with water in it. You can see I put my tool right in there. So this is all clean. I'm not worried about using my hand. This is safe. You can't eat it, but it's not a nasty, nasty acid. And I'm going to put this down in the water and right away start to rub it with the sponge. Now I want to get as much of that cream off as I can. You're not going to hurt the glass, you're not going to hurt that vinyl. So just scrub, scrub, scrub. Ta-da! So there is our etching. Now normally I would take off all this vinyl and then wash it again. But instead I want to try something different. So I'm going to make sure it's really, really clean. And now let's dry it really well. So I got a couple paper towels here. Because I want to paint just the inside portion of that label with chalk paint. Now, painting on glass can be difficult, especially when it's so slippery. But boy, once you've etched it, it has a beautiful tooth, and painting becomes a breeze. And since I know I want that exact shape, and I already have a stencil that is that exact shape, you know, why not take advantage of that? So I've got some FolkArt Chalkboard Paint, and I'm going to shake it up really well, and we're going to put that on our bottle. Now I want to keep that outside portion etched. I don't want paint on that. So I'm going to just put a whole bunch of painter's tape around those little spots. So I've completely taped out the etched part of the glass that I don't want to get any chalkboard paint on. And now we'll put some chalkboard paint. You definitely want more than one coat of this, and you should allow about an hour between each coat. The other thing that works really well when you're working with a chalkboard paint is to apply each coat in a different direction. So this first time I'm going to go left to right, and when I put on the second coat, I'll go top to bottom. So I've applied 2 coats of chalkboard paint, one in the vertical direction and one in the horizontal direction, waiting an hour between those 2 coats, and then let it cure. Removed all the stencils, cleaned everything, and there we have it. A really nice chalkboard label on our, well, vinegar or oil bottle, done with chalkboard paint and etchall. So now all we need to do is fill it with some herbs and some vinegar, and it's going to make a great gift. So we'll do that next. So now we're ready to make our herbed vinegar. I find it's easiest to write the name on our chalkboard while it's empty. So I'm just going to write rosemary on here. And now we can go ahead and fill it. A little tip when you're making an herb vinegar, just fill your bottle halfway with the vinegar. Put your herbs in and then let it sit, 12 hours, even overnight. Because the herbs are going to soak up some of that vinegar, and then you'll have more room when you go to finish it off. So I'm just going to put about half in, and then I can stick my herbs in. You can use all different combinations of herbs. Now this rosemary is one nice big piece. It's not very fluffy, so it goes right in. If you're working with parsley or sage, just use a skewer to poke everything down in there. So I'm going to leave that overnight and fill the rest up tomorrow. So this has been sitting, and the rosemary has absorbed some of the vinegar, so I can just add the rest. Close it up. And we can add a little tag. And now we have the perfect gift from my kitchen to yours. Herbed vinegar with an etched bottle that has a really nice little frame around the chalkboard part. Enjoy!